Hello, and welcome to episode 53 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach,
And I'm Jeff.
and we're your source for weekly drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
Right you are, Zach. We are just highly sophisticated gentlemen drinking the most sophisticated of beverages and discussing, of course, Magic the Gathering. Specifically, Magic the Gathering Arena.
Yes, the most sophisticated of ways to play Magic.
Indeed.
Indeed. Jeff, the new vampire set just came out, and there was a wedding, and it was glorious, really. And I just felt like we should be a bit fancier this week, so I'm drinking this fine glass of red wine.
I, too, have a fine glass of red.
Oh, just delicious. Very, not that swill that we normally drink.
Yeah. Excited to introduce our listeners to a whole new class of beverage.
Yes, exactly. Obviously, I don't actually feel that way about wine. I like wine, and it's not any better or worse than beer. It's just different. But, of course, each week we both bring a wine. We drink our own wine, and that's it. We did not want to buy 2 bottles of wine each, so we both got our own bottle of wine, and we are going to drink that one. And not accidentally drink 2 bottles of wine in the episode, because that could happen.
We felt like it was just asking for trouble.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, Jeff, would you like to introduce us to the wine that you have picked?
Of course. So, I have Diabolica Red. It is a red wine from Diabolica Wines, which is local here in Ontario. And it's a blend of many things, including Merlot, Dornfelder, Gamay Noir, Chambourcin, and Cabernet Franc.
Ah, I see. A mix of the bloodlines. Ah, interesting.
Indeed. But I picked it because it has a little devil on the bottle.
Oh, perfect.
Diabolica is the name of the wine, so it felt somewhat Innistrad themed.
Yeah, that makes sense. I have also picked a wine that is Innistrad themed. I am drinking Red Knot by Shingleback, which is, this is the Shiraz of their Red Knot kind of grouping. It's 14%, and it is made in McLaren Vale in Australia. If the Shiraz did not tip you off from the Australia. But yeah, so Red Knot, they're tying the Red Knot, get it? It's a wedding, wine.
Because of the wedding.
Yeah. It makes sense. It's the thing. But yeah, anyway, if you're not familiar with wines, I know some things. Jeff knows how much you know stuff.
Nothing.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's okay to say it. That's why mine is a blend of random stuff.
Yeah, but you know what's also great is that you don't have to know much about it to drink it.
Certainly true.
Not necessarily. I don't know if your enjoyment will be different, but like, you know, you can still drink it. It's still alcohol.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, there might be a wider variety of wines I can enjoy. I can't enjoy an individual one as deeply, but I can enjoy almost any of them.
Yes. All right, so we might get into more wine talk later, but it is also different tonight because we're only drinking our own wine. So maybe we won't be so intense about rating it. We'll see. I don't know. The more I drink it, the more I'll be like, we got to talk about these wines.
Yeah.
All right, so Magic news. The set came out. Hooray!
Woohoo!
We've been playing it this whole weekend, and we're going to talk about it tonight. Because this is our first Sips episode, where we finally get to play the new set and talk about our first thoughts. So, Jeff, should we just jump right into things?
Yeah, let's jump in. Where do you want to start? Just overall feel?
Just the beginning. How was the wedding for you? Did you like the wedding? Was it a good affair?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, I was a bit of a belligerent guest. I must confess, but in the end, I got what I needed out of it.
Good. So. Nice. I have also enjoyed it quite a bit, as like one would with the new Magic set. I don't think there's ever a new Magic set where I play it and be like, this sucks. I don't like this at all. I just don't know.
Yeah, you never hate it immediately, right?
Yeah, I just To be fair, I don't think I really hate any set. It's just some I like more than others.
No.
But no, this has been great. My wedding experience has been mixed. I've met some good people and I've met some really bad people. More so in the I have played well and played very badly, and then even worse, and then it's been going down.
You're trending the wrong direction there.
Yeah, so it's not so much that I don't like the wedding, it's more that I'm just not good at the wedding. I don't know if that translates into anything, but whatever.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Good at weddings.
How do you feel? Does it feel different than Midnight Hunt? I think that's a big question for this set, because sometimes it does feel like you're opening the same packs, but at the same time, the draft format is just super different.
Yeah, totally. So the draft format's very different, and I would just say even from a flavor standpoint, like I don't know what the numbers are on this. I didn't actually check, but just playing it, this feels like a vampire set to me.
Yeah.
Because there's blood tokens everywhere, and there's, almost every game contains a vampire or close to or something. And so where Midnight Hunt kind of didn't make you feel like it was a werewolf set, this one I think does a little better job of making you just have that feeling in the back of your head that this is a vampire set. So it definitely feels different than Midnight Hunt.
Yeah, I think that the focus on the day and night thing isn't as strong. It's really only on the werewolf cards, where in Midnight Hunt it was on like other cards that would care about day and night switching, which is kind of an interesting thing. But no, I agree that the blood tokens really help the feel of like you're at this wedding, and the feel of it just being like a festivity. And there's a lot of just funny kind of jokey cards in this one, which adds a little bit of fun to it, which I like.
Totally. And I feel like there's just tons of cards that just incidentally make a blood token or something to kind of up the number of, even if there's not that many actual vampires relative to some other creature types, there's a ton of cards that are vampire themed.
Yeah, exactly. Also just random things that do just make blood tokens, like that the common white pacifism spell. Like when you exile the creature, it makes a blood token just kind of randomly, and you're like, oh, interesting. Right. Like it does seem like a thing that's just tacked on in some places, so you just get them from random stuff sometimes. But yeah, as far as like draft archetypes go, how have you been finding? How are they like different? Are we going to the same colors as we were in Midnight Hunt? What seems strong? What seems horrible? Like, really, can we play werewolves? Is that a card, like a type that we can play now, or are we still kind of off the werewolves train?
That's a good question. I think a lot of people have just been avoiding werewolves because they were so bad in Midnight Hunt that people are just going to let other people decide, do the practice to see if they don't suck in this.
Yeah, figure it out for themselves.
And the other side of that coin, I know I've mentioned this to you. I don't think you noticed it in your drafts, but in mine there's been so much blue-black that I think people are just so used to drafting blue-black zombies for Midnight Hunt that a lot of them are tending more towards that in this. And I did a draft with blue-black and it went horribly. I think I got one win. And then I drafted something else. Or I think it was the other way around. I drafted red-black first. I got to 7 wins, and I beat blue-black like 5 or 6 times. So it just felt like blue-black maybe is not good, or at least it's not as obvious how to draft it.
Yes, that's also been my situation where I haven't. I don't feel like I've played against it as much as you have, but I definitely tried to play it, and I had a bad time, a very bad time. I tried to do the wretched throng thing, and it was the throng idea. You just don't do that.
Very nice, very nice.
Yeah, it's horrible. I didn't have enough of them, but also I just think it's not good. You don't want your deck full of this card, especially when it feels bad when you draw them. Like, that's horrible.
Yeah, it kind of feels like maybe just like exploit is really powerful, but maybe you just don't have the time to do that.
You really don't.
Every game.
Because it's like the throng thing just like if you're choosing between the Wretched Throng or the Doomed Dissenter, pick the Doomed Dissenter every single time. It's so much better. Because
Doomed Dissenter's great.
Yeah, because if the only reason you're having it in your deck is to sacrifice it and then have another creature to sacrifice later, do Doomed Dissenter. Like it's just you don't have to waste any
But then
time.
you can't get the chain, man. You can't chain it into like 5 of them.
Yeah, but then you have to put 5 of them in your deck. And then like your starting hand is 3 of them, so then you're like, sweet, I can go get the other 2, and then you keep drawing lands for the rest of the game. I don't know. It's not good. I don't like it.
Yeah, I've played against some Throng decks that did not impress me. Some guy, I think, one of my opponents even managed to get like 4, but it just didn't matter because you were just casting 2-mana 2/1s, and I never cared that you were doing that. So
yeah, it's like cool. Like it doesn't matter to me. I was really thinking Exploit was going to be so strong, and some of the common Exploit cards I'm just not super impressed with. So
yeah, I haven't been as impressed with it as I thought I was going to be either.
Yeah.
I do have a green-white deck that I drafted, and I haven't played a game with it yet, but I'm excited to see how that goes.
ooh,
Let's get my training on, you know?
yeah. Are you doing like the human thing, or is it mainly just the counter?
It's a
stuff?
human sub-theme, because
Okay.
I had a couple of those guys that whenever you get a counter on a human, you draw a card.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The 5 drops, right? The green ones.
Yeah, the 5-drop with training.
I had played one draft where I was doing the kind of like a white-green human matters deck because I had that enchantment, the 4-mana green one that when they die you draw a card, and then if it's a human if it's a human you draw a card, and if it had a +1/+1 counter you gain 2 life, and that ended up going pretty well. I did actually think the 4-mana do nothing enchantment worked out pretty well in that situation.
Nice.
Which I don't always feel that way, or I feel that way until I play it and then I'm really upset. But having that as like 1-drop, 2-drop train into 3-drop, 4-drop this thing, then trade 1-for-1 with everything and draw a bunch of cards felt good. So
That seems pretty good.
yeah, right? Like how is that bad? I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like green-white's just always at least solid. You know, it's been a while since green-white was like the unplayable draft combo because it's just fine creatures, and that's always going to be okay.
Yeah, I also think it's because green-white is always the +1/+1 counter theme, and because draft can be so like it really matters what your stats are on your cards. Being able to change the stats forever is just kind of good.
Yeah, +1/+1 counters are good.
Yeah, that's just what it is. So that does make it quite interesting because I wouldn't normally think that, and I just think inherently it's because that's always the theme that it gets. You can't really go wrong with it. So I did want to ask, how do you feel about Boarded Window? Have you played with that card at all?
I don't even know what it does.
So it's
an artifact.
It's a 3-mana artifact that says creatures attacking you get -1, -0, and then at the beginning of each end step, if you were dealt 4 or more damage this turn, you exile Boarded Window. It seems like a really horrible card. I'm like looking at it in draft. I've passed a ton of them and been like, this card looks like trash. It looks not great. But I have seen some board states that people are posting online, and it's just like living the dream, and it's like 3 or 4 boarded windows, and then like
nobody can deal any damage,
and they can't deal any damage to them. You know, if you have a couple of them on the battlefield, it just like they all their 2/2s are just like O2s. Like
yeah,
it just seems awesome. So that's one of my dreams. My draft dream is to like play a ton of boarded windows and make it so that like I just have this weird prison deck that I have to beat them with flyers or something somehow. But
so they just like lava axe you and you lose all your boarded windows.
Yeah, so then there is that. Do we have a lava axe type card in the set? We have that one that deals 4, but does it deal it to a player as well? I can't remember.
I don't think so. I think most of the removal seems to not go face.
Yeah, and is like not as great as the last set, right?
Right.
I mean, do you think so? Do you agree that like the efficient removal at least isn't like stacked in black?
Yeah. I think the removal in the last set was like above
Bonkers,
par for
right?
what we should expect. And this one is back to kind of normal.
Yeah.
right? Like there's still a lot in red, and there's the black removal. You're right, is definitely worse on average. Like there's just not three super efficient ones. They did the more usual like good removal for small stuff, medium sized removal that gets almost everything, and then expensive removal that does hit everything comes with like random upside.
Yeah.
And that's
Instead of 1, 2, and 3 kill anything, basically. You know?
exactly. It's the more typical like 1 or 2, then a 4, and then a 6.
Yeah. So I feel better about that. It it also makes me feel like, I felt like the last set you couldn't really play red at all, and now I feel like red's back on the table. And I like the Flame Blessed Bolt. Really, the exile really matters. There's a lot of stuff that you're like, please just go away forever.
Yeah, I guess this time it's red that got all the like efficient removal because they got that and a braid both at common, and then some pretty good uncommon ones too.
Yeah, so I think the big thing in the werewolf deck, which I haven't really played it or seen it either, because I think you're right that people are just avoiding it completely. But the child of the pack, that the uncommon for that just seems very good compared to the other ones.
Yeah,
like,
that card's a house for sure.
right. And then the other one, like I would see the 2-mana Lord from the last set and be like, yeah, I don't really care. But this can just sit there and like block and just poop out a bunch of wolves and then make them strong, which is just all you want to do. Like, awesome. I like that.
Yeah, and like even if it only makes one wolf, you're happy with that, right? That's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot of power and toughness off one card.
Happy about it. Like that. And it flips into like a 5/5 with trample. Love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still have a lot to explore with this set. I'm in a pretty happy place right now.
Yeah, I predicted the best color pair was black-white, and I have yet to play with or against it, so I have no new data for you on that.
Oh, man.
On that front.
I
the
did.
shot that I took, but
I played black, white, and sealed. And it wasn't really, it was just kind of like good stuff, but wasn't really like the life gain things.
okay.
It was just kind of like cards that I had and removal and things. And I ended up going like 5 and 3. So, it wasn't horrible. I did try the bridegroom. Fuck.
Oh yeah,
The
the bridegroom.
I'm almost done with this glass of wine. Wine really just goes, like, it just disappears whenever I have it in a glass. I'm like, where did it all go? It's just gone now. So this.
Well, remember when sometimes we drink like 9% beers on the show, and afterwards we're like, man, that hits you harder than a 5% or so.
Yeah. So
just think of it as like a 14% beer.
Yeah, except for it's so much easier to drink because you don't get full at all. It just goes straight through you. Anyway, bride's gown and groom's whatever it's called, his suit. That's a weird finery. Groom's finery. Those two equipment things. So I had that in my sealed, and I was like, okay, well, if I'm ever gonna do this, and it's ever gonna be kind of okay, you gotta try it, right? It is funny because for the most part they're horrible. And when you get them together, it's awkward. I don't know if this is a story thing that they're trying to tell us, because so basically, if you don't know, these are equipments that the encrypted creature gets +2/+0, and then it gets an additional +0/+2, and has a keyword if you also have the other equipment that's attached to another creature. So the idea is like you have the creature that's dressed like the bride and the creature that's dressed like the groom. But the keywords that they give are Death Touch and First Strike, and those abilities are really good with each other on the same creature. So really, what I did was I would put them on one super creature that's a First Strike Death Toucher, and it's like a creature that's wearing a gown and a suit at the same time.
Yeah.
And
that's like +4/+4.
Yeah, and First Strike Death Touch, and like just like can't block, and like. Or they don't know how First Strike Death Touch works, and so they would triple block it, and I'd be like, "Oop, sorry, that sucks to me."
You don't want to triple block it.
So I got a couple like cheesy wins that way, but it just seems like a weird flavor thing where it's like, are they trying to tell me that Olivia wears like both, like she is the bride and the groom, like she's kind of marrying herself because she doesn't care about Edgar and she just woke him up just for the name. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm reading way too deep into
No,
this.
I think they wanted it. I think they wanted it to be on different creatures, and then the play was just too bad that they're like, fine, we'll let you equip the same creature with it.
Yeah.
But I bet the original design was like, if this is equipped to another creature you control, then
Yeah, that's probably right. But in any case, they're much better if you suit up and gown up together on the same creature.
which is kind of how equipment works, right? Like you often want to load it all up on the same thing.
Exactly. So yeah, that's what I feel about those. But other than that, like I don't think you should really play these. Like I was not impressed.
No,
I was pretty upset most of the time having them. It sucked. It was like
yeah, +2/+0 for like 4 mana. It's just not enough, I don't think.
like maybe I like the bride's gown more because you could put it on a flyer, and I would be more interested in that. But the finery being in black, like I just don't care as much. And
Right.
there are other
White's usually more interested in equipment than
exactly.
black is.
But that's my little story about those equipment. But of course, I'm going to try out the thing that's going to try to make you 2-for-1 yourself. Because why wouldn't you want to do that? It's so fun.
Of course, yeah.
2-for-1
Classic.
yourself.
Although speaking of the limited format, there is a card that we have to talk about because it's getting a lot of press currently, and that would be Avabrook Caretaker.
Oh,
now
God.
here you have some experience with this card.
Yeah. Do you want me to tell the story about that card too? Fuck, I have so many horrible stories. If you don't know Avabrook Caretaker, we talked about it in the last episode, but it's this freaking bomb mythic unbeatable card. All right, so it's just like the 6 mana 4/4 with hexproof, but then at the beginning of combat, you get to put 2 +1/+1 counters on another target creature. And then if it flips, you just start throwing them everywhere. You put them counters on everything, and everything has hexproof. Like if this thing flips,
it's a 6/6.
yeah, and it's a 6/6. If this thing flips, and you only have removal spells, like you can't make it daytime unless you kill all your creatures. Like it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I've heard of people like killing their own 2 creatures to flip it back.
Exactly.
Then
Just
it's like you still just lose.
and then
to
you
it.
just lose. So turn 6, my opponent plays this card into. They already had 2 like kind of dorky. We're at parity. They had some dorky white creatures out. They're playing green white, and they slam Avabrook Caretaker. I'm like, oh, this sucks. But I think I'll be okay because I'll just kill all their other creatures, and then I'll just manage that. The turn right after that, they play this freaking white enchantment, Sigarda's Summons, which is 4 white for the enchantment, and it says creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them have base power and toughness 4/4, have flying, and are angels. And so,
Insane.
literally, Avabrook is just putting counters for free onto creatures, turning them into angels and flying over me. I can't even chump block. Like, I can't do anything. I'm like, well, fuck this. I can't. And then, like, of course, after that, they're never playing any other card because they're like, I just want it to be night. And then, like,
Yeah.
I couldn't do anything. It was the worst. I was so upset.
Yeah.
It was like, that's pretty sick. I can't believe you got both of those bomb awesome cards. Sigarda Summons obviously isn't as good because it needs some setup. Avabrook needs no setup. That's not true. One other creature would be helpful, but yeah, that was rough. So watch out for both of those cards. I don't know.
Constructed level combos. Yeah.
In limited. Ugh, that was a rough one. So if you have any crazy, horrible draft stories, please find us on Twitter and tell us because I need somebody to help me feel better about my limited experience right now because it's going pretty poorly. But only the bad ones. I don't want you to tell me how good you did on something, please.
Yeah.
Just sharing my misery about how horrible you're doing.
They're going to post screenshots of them playing against you.
It's literally the person who was like, hey, check out, I got this combo on this stupid idiot. And it's me. God, that would be terrible. Anyway, Jeff, what bad things have happened to you recently?
I don't know. In limited, most things are going great. But if we want to talk about bad things that have been happening to me, that could transition us over to Constructed here.
Ooh, I have some more stories about Constructed too, but I'm excited to hear what horrible things happened to you. What's going on?
That has just been a total disaster for me. So I've tried so many different decks. Like I built, like let's just say I put together 5 just random decks that I was excited about. You know, it's just like build this deck and then build another one, and then as I acquire cards for them, like get impatient, craft it all, and jump into the queues.
Oof.
And I think like there was one night when I did this, and I kept trying new decks and playing at least 3 matches with each of them. And I think I must have lost like 15 matches in a row.
Oh,
like it was some unbelievable, like my decks weren't that good, but I also was drawing really poorly. And like I would always have one game out of every match that was just an auto loss because like I just did not draw anything of use. Mulligan to like 4 and whatever. So that was just one of those nights. But I was losing to whatever, like you name it, like Abzan venture into the dungeon.
Yeah,
with my ass. Like there was one deck that I will always remember because it was. I don't think I'll ever forget that I lost to this deck because it was Grixis zombies / vampires. That one pounded me pretty good.
Wow.
It's literally just like 2 half tribal decks slapped together and with no apparent overlapping synergy. I'm still wondering why this was the case. Like I honestly wonder if they just opened like 50 Crimson Vow packs and got some good zombies and some good vampires and like built that deck, but that 2-0'd me real quick. So let's just say that I have been unable to win.
In that deck, do you think that they were running the Necro Duality, the 4-mana blue enchantment that like doubles your zombies?
I didn't see it, but I sure hope so.
Oh yeah, because if you half your deck is vampires, you have to play a card that doubles your zombies.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
That's awesome. So, okay, so what decks
there
were
was
you?
the vampire land too, and they couldn't cast their zombies.
Just add blue to a Mardu deck, really.
Yeah, exactly.
So what decks were you building? What did not work? What were the ones that were terrible?
Yeah, so again, I tried pretty much everything. I tried like just green-based mid-range decks, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm going to start, and I built a whole bunch of those. Basically, trying to make the card mulch
Happen.
Just
Okay.
build decks around mulch, and figure out various ways to do that. So the first one I did was a reanimator deck. That was a lot of fun, but it was not good. So that one quickly got shelved. And then I switched to more of a landfall thing, try and do the Ren and 7, mulch with Felidar Retreat and like Lotus Cobra and stuff. And that one I thought had a lot of potential, but I don't know. I seemed to lose every match with that too. So then I switched to like blue-white control with like Teferis and untapping stuff and some of the new like blue cards that thought could be pretty good and lost with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying some different stuff, but I didn't play anything that was obviously tier 1 or even like vampire aggro or something. I think and maybe it could have snuck out a few wins if I just played an aggro deck.
Yeah, that's interesting. This is actually the first Constructed season in a long time where I'm actually brewing something, which is nice. Like it's different to be not just playing a deck list that I'm looking up, which is like it's a new little experiment for me. I like it. I'm excited. So I said this last episode, and it is happening. I am working on my blue-white auras deck in standard. We're making it, and it's been varying success rates, but it hasn't been as horrible as I thought originally, which I'm kind of happy with. But kind of the same thing you were saying is that I'm not really playing against meta decks though, so I don't know how it's actually measuring up. I'm just countering people's spells, and then they concede to me. I'm like, well, I didn't actually play the deck the way that it's supposed to be played. It's kind of like, trying to be, it's a little bit slower, trying to do like some tempo stuff. I actually am using, so this is the deck that I wanted to do with the Storm Chaser Drake. Storm Chaser? Wait, is that right? I should know the name of the card. Storm something.
It's close to that, though.
Yeah, it's close to that.
It is Storm Chaser Drake. Yeah.
Storm Chaser Drake. Okay, so Storm Chaser Drake, and then I do have a couple of the Mischievous Catgeist cards, which is the Curiosity, and everything costs a bit more, so it's a little bit obviously more expensive. But Faithful Mending has been really helpful in the deck because most of the time you have all these creatures that are auras and you want them in the graveyard. So you end up Faithful Mending at the end of their end step after you held up like a counterspell, and then dump your auras in the yard for next turn to play them. So it's actually hasn't been horrible, and I've been having a pretty good time. Though I do get people scoop, like it doesn't hit really hard because there aren't a lot of good auras that pump your creature. They just give them abilities. Like I can give my 2/1 double strike, I guess, which is like good, but like not that good.
Take 4.
Yeah, fuck yeah. And then I draw 2 cards. That's nice if it has both of those on, but it's a lot of work for something that is easily disrupted. So I'm waiting to lose a lot with it and then maybe give up later. But at the moment, it hasn't been horrible, but mainly because people will scoop they'll scoop the match.
Tempo decks.
Yeah, they'll scoop the match if you get them with Jawari Disruption. So I'm taking a page out of your book. I'm playing for Jawari Disruption. So
yes. What creatures do you like play other than the Drake or the ones that are enchantments on the backside?
None. Just okay. Yeah, either the Drake or I'm playing Dorothea, which is the Azorius one that is the 2-mana 4/4 that dies if it does anything. But it also is like just
right. It's like the Geist of Saint Traft
kind of, yeah. And then from the graveyard, you get to make a attack.
Right, it's 4/4. Geist of Saint Traft's Angel, I guess, is the idea.
Yeah,
the angel that he summons.
And she is actually kind of nice because it is a 2-mana way to block Goldspan Dragon. There's the reason I was thinking is like I can just leave it there until I might need to block with it. Or attack the turn I play the Storm Chaser Drake, and then the turn after that, I can play it on the Storm Chaser and then hit for 6. But it's all right. Like a lot of
it's not exactly something you want to put a bunch of auras on, though.
No, you definitely don't want to put any auras on it. That's why you're totally fine with it dying because you want the aura side, and so. Getting either blocking something that like trading with a creature is awesome, or getting 4 damage in a control match is also awesome. So, or fine. Yeah, it'd be better obviously if it stayed around for a long time. But
put some pressure on,
Yeah. So I will keep everyone posted with how that's going later on. But yeah, Jeff, we've been talking for a bit, and we do need to get to some worthless slots. Do you have any last thoughts before we take a wine break?
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to mention about Standard is that there were actually a couple of big tournaments over the weekend.
Oh, you're right.
In particular, there was the Red Bull Untapped, whatever version of that it was this weekend. And the results were, I don't know, interesting at the very least, but basically they were dominated by mono white.
I didn't remember the mono white part, but I do remember that Alrund's Epiphany is kind of not losing favor, like that card specifically, not necessarily the blue red decks.
Right.
But people are less interested in Alrund's Epiphany and more interested in the Kraken, right?
Right. Yeah, a lot of people switched to just is it control. I saw Seth Manfield did that, and he did pretty well in the Red Bull tournament. But
yeah, he top 8'd, right?
He could have done well with pretty much any deck. So
that's true.
I don't know if that's saying much, but
yeah, that's true. It is hard to get that information, but the Hullbreaker Horror is just kind of replacing Alrund's Epiphany in some in varying degrees, maybe a couple copies as like a different control finisher, which is an interesting. I wonder if Wizards was like, well, let's wait until Crimson Vow comes out and they see this card and play with it, and then we won't have to ban the extra turn card.
Yeah, exactly. And so Mostly the metagame, other than, that key difference in what you're saying, the Izzet decks kind of got shaken up a bit. Dragons didn't do very well, and this Izzet Control did really well, and then the Izzet Turns did, medium.
Yeah.
But Mono White just stormed it with, almost 60% win rate, and it was just exactly the Mono White decks from before, but with Thalia in them now, so...
Wow. That's awesome. I did not see that, and that makes me want to just give up on my brew and play Mono White.
But one deck I did want to highlight that showed up in, let's see if I have the numbers here, 44 decks on the weekend.
Okay.
And it had a win rate of 52%. Rakdos Vampires, baby.
Yeah, all right. There you go.
Brand new one.
So that was your shot, right? Are you taking a shot right now for that? Maybe we'll let it stabilize for a little bit, and then we'll decide that
it's too early.
It might be too early. It just spiked a tournament, maybe.
But all I'm saying is it's in the green on MTG data for the week.
All right, well...
That's always a good sign.
And I just need to try to get auras on the other section, just with the cat,
Yeah.
If it can be listed.
Maybe they'll replace the cat with a Storm Chaser Drake.
Yeah, that'd be great. Or the kitten. They should replace the cat with the
Oh, yeah, there you go.
The little, the Curiosity Kitten. But yeah, all right. So with that, let us take a wine break and get to our Wortha slots. So I guess we should just make a wine bottle sound, because we don't... Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Whatever. We can't crack beers today. We're not drinking beer.
Yeah.
We
can, but...
Yeah, I guess we could make beer cracking sounds, but it wouldn't make sense. Yeah, I'm just plowing through this bottle, man. This might have been a horrible choice. I do feel fancy for now, until my mouth is just purple and I'm just, I'm completely out of it. Let's just talk about the wine a little bit. How's your bottle? Do you like it?
It's a little sweet for my taste.
Gotcha. Okay.
But,
all right. I see it. Yeah.
It's growing on me.
Yeah. I'm happy that I got the one with the cool name. But as far as the actual wine goes, it is not as bold as I was hoping. I really like it when it makes your mouth dry and just rips your taste buds, basically. So this is very...
For sure.
It's deep and dark and purple, but yeah. Anyway, maybe they'll get you some clues on what we're going to rate this. I don't even have a scale for this. The scale will be would you bring this to the wedding? Be yeah, probably. It's wine. Anyway,
yeah.
Jeff, let's jump into our Worth a Slot segment, and we could use a refresher, because it's been a month since we've done this. So
yeah, it's been at least a few days.
Yeah. So Jeff, what is our Worth a Slot segment?
Okay, in our Worth a Slot segment, we're going to talk about upcoming cards that excite us, but we're going to do it in a little bit of a formulaic way here. We're going to pick 3 cards that we think have a chance at making it in Standard, and that's in 3 different categories. The first is a layup, so we're pretty sure, we're sure, it's that this will see some play in Standard. Then there's a 3-pointer, which is, it could see play, but, it's not a guarantee. And a half-court shot, which is pretty unlikely to see play. But we really want them to, is mostly what that one's about. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to pick 2 cards that people are either... Well, one that people are overrating and one that people are underrating during the preview season.
That's right. And Jeff, who should start? Who wants to start with our layups? What are you thinking? Do you have one locked and loaded? I
have a few options, so I'll let you get the first layup, and then I'll pick one. If you pick one of mine, won't pick that one.
All right, that makes some sense. And I also have a few kind of that I've been thinking about. So as I'm deciding exactly which one I'm going to pick, I'll just kind of ramble a little bit as I'm still looking for it.
As we tend to do.
Yeah, it's not an exact science, obviously. But my layup, I really think that this card has been seeing a lot of play already. and there was talk about it replacing other cards in existing decks. And I don't really exactly see why it wouldn't see play. But this is Maniform Hellkite. 2 red for a 4/4 dragon with flying, and it says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create an XX red dragon illusion creature token with flying and haste, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast that spell. Exile that token at the beginning of the next end step. This is just one of those things where we already have this sweet dragon deck that we saw at Worlds. That used a bunch of cards that were non-creatures that would be really strong and big if they were cast or made into these dragon tokens. So I think it just hits hard and fast, and it's not the same mana value as a Goldspan Dragon, which is always a thumbs up. And
right, it's not competing with Goldspan.
So that's great, and you can just cast a ton of stuff, and it doesn't do it only once each turn, which is huge because apparently every other card in this set only does something once each turn, which is so irritating. So I think that this will continue to see play in Is It Dragons, and the ones that are not switching to this like Hull Breacher horror thing. But yeah, I think this is going to see play. And yeah,
I mean it's a great card. That was one of my options as well for this layup. I think even like you could see a mono red dragons type thing emerge where it's like dragon egg, this, and some gold spans, and then everything else is a spell. And the reason to do that is maybe even to make use of Chandra, which kind of wants you to be mostly red.
Oh, that's true.
Entirely red.
That is something I didn't think of, but that makes a lot of sense because there are a couple other like mono red-ish cards that I would have wanted to see in this. I think mainly what I was thinking of was a flashbacked Memory Deluge or a Alrund's Epiphany would really make a great dragon creature. So
yep, that's definitely true.
Yes. So that was where I was initially going, but I like this mono red spells idea, dragon spells. Pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, I was like gonna consider throwing that together, and then I was like, that's a lot of mythic rare wild cards though to spend right away. So maybe we'll collect a little bit more of the set before I attempt that.
That is how I felt about the vampires deck I wanted to build. So
yeah, I also really wanted to build tokens, but then I was like, I don't know if I want to use mythic rare wild cards on Kaya. Let's just see if I pick some up.
Yeah, I feel the same way about Planeswalkers, but that's usually just because I don't love playing Planeswalkers, even though they're really good. Anyway, it's not the time to talk about that, but it is the time to talk about what Jeff's layup is going to be for this set.
All right, well, you took the one that I had that was actually interesting. The other two I had in mind we've already talked about them, and they just have already made an impact. So I'll go with the slightly less obvious one, I think.
All
and
right.
I'm just going to go with Hullbreaker Horror.
All right.
This is my layup. This card is going to change the way control decks are played. It is a control finisher that kind of harkens back to some of the old classic control finishers like Pearl Lake Ancient and stuff. This card is, 5 blue, flash for a 7/8 Kraken Horror. It can't be countered, which is huge. And whenever you cast a spell, you choose up to 1, return a spell you don't control to its owner's hand, or return a non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. So yeah, you just kind of... Control finishers that don't make you tap out are always really hard to deal with because it means they can hold up a counter spell and this, and then decide when you do something, they get to decide whether they need to counter it or tap out for their win condition. And then this one's obviously just an absolute monster at 7/8. It blocks the land.
Oh shit!
Really cleanly too. So
yeah, that's
it just blocks everything that doesn't fly. So and it can really take over the board once you untap with it. So this thing's just going to be around for probably its entire tenure in Standard.
Yeah, I agree. It will fit into the Is It control deck. It goes in, Azorius. It goes in Dimir. This card's nuts also because it gets through the Hermit Druid stuff. Hermit Druid, sorry, not Hermit Druid. The other Hermit, the blue one that turns into the one that makes it so no one can counter your spells, and Lear too. Because this just bounces the spells back to their hand, which is...
Yeah, it doesn't counter spells, but it kind of it divides them by 0, if you will.
Exactly. Which I think is huge because if it would counter stuff, there are other ways that these other decks would deal with it. And now it's like, what do you do? How do you deal with this card? Like,
yeah, I mean, it feels like if they untap with this, you're just not going to resolve anything for the rest of the game.
Exactly.
And they have a 7-8.
And your board is gone. Like,
yeah.
I guess besides your lands, but this card seems just rough. So yeah, it definitely will be around for a long time. Exactly what you just said. Ugh, it's hard because like it hurts me to say that because I know it to be true, but I just don't want to deal with it, and I haven't even dealt with it really at all yet. But I know it's going to be something that's going to hurt me. But maybe I'll join the dark side. Maybe I'll have to play this card because it's so good. Also, it's only a rare, so it's easier to craft for those people that who have been playing for a while and have a lot of rare wild cards. Because if you start,
that's actually true. Because I didn't play this in my blue-white control build because I just assumed it was a mythic rare and didn't want to craft it. If I'd known it was a rare, I would have played three or four of these.
Exactly. But going to my 3-pointer, I'm going to jump on a little bit of... I don't know if I'm going to step on your toes through all this, but like, whatever. I'm fine with it. I like stepping on toes. I got steel-toed shoes on. Whatever.
I have a very specific one I want to do here. So.
All right. Maybe... Oh, shit. I don't know. I don't think this is it. I don't think you're going to talk about this card, but who knows? I'm just going to talk about it. So this is a legendary creature... Anya, made of dishonor. 2 black, red. Is that it? Is that the card?
It's not it, but I love that card. So I love that
okay. All right. I thought for a second. So Anya, made of dishonor, seems like a card that Jeff would have picked for his 3-pointer because it's 2 black, red, which is Jeff's new favorite color combination.
It's true. I'm a Rakdos person now. Yeah. There's no denying it.
It's a 4/5 vampire, and whenever Anya, made of dishonor, and or one or more other vampires enter the battlefield under your control, you create a blood token. This triggers only once each turn, just to make it so it doesn't go crazy with it. But the important ability is you can pay 2 generic mana to sacrifice another creature or a blood token, and each opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life, which is awesome. So I think if like Rakdos Vampires is gonna be a deck, this card is there's a lot of competing 4-drops, I think. Because you do have like Edgar, Charmed Groom, and then there's the 5/6, the black one, with a few others as well. But this one's really nice because it can deal, it can be a finisher without combat. Which is going to be huge, and getting to churn through your deck either using the blood tokens to draw extra cards and get rid of other ones that you don't want, or by literally just spamming the board with creatures and just sacking them, and also having like your massacre, meat hook massacres to deal like if you're sacrificing creatures, so you're dealing even more damage. I think this card is going to see some play if. I think it's going to be a card that goes into Vampires if Vampires is a top tier deck. So, yeah, I don't think this is one that you can get rid of. It's definitely worth keeping around.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about this card, but I know I've been watching like Gab Nassif play Vampires, and he basically just cannot lose with the deck that he built. But when he started, he had just one of all the different 4-drops you could play. So it's like one of these, one Sorin, one Blood Vial Purveyor, one, there's a whole bunch of options, like you said. And so you just played one of each. And then it slowly kind of started to become clear that this one was the one you wanted, because your Vampires deck actually has a lot of lands in the late game, because Florian, the most common scenario is that you attack and then you just play a land because you don't have any mana left. And so Florian's like netting you lands every turn. And so it's not that uncommon to just like play this and drain immediately. But usually, basically, he would cast this, and then if his opponent could not immediately kill it, they would die, because they'd be at 4 or 6 life. And then at that point in the game, and this would be just, they'd stabilize the board, and then this comes down and now they have to find a removal spell immediately. Because
either that turn. I've even just played this in sealed or limited. I can't remember which one it was, but I came down and I was like, I don't think it's that big a deal. And then it was like, oh no, shit, the game's over, like immediately. Like I was like at 12. And it was like, oh, no, you're screwed. My entire turn is just sacking everything I have.
Right.
So...
Yeah, I thought maybe it was a bit too like slow or clunky just on an initial read, but after watching it actually play like on the battlefield, I'm like, oh no, it's just really strong.
Yeah, which that's exactly how I feel. That I thought absolutely nothing of it, and then playing against it or seeing it on the battlefield was like, oh shit, no, this is really good. So I'm hoping it'll make it into there because it is a really interesting card, and it's fun to see a character who was this was a character who was initially a commander card coming into this. Same with Edgar, obviously, but Anya was a madness commander. So it's cool to see Anya in a standard set doing something else. So, which also has discardy things, but not really. So, anyway, what are you thinking for your 3-pointer?
All right, so this is the card that all of my bad mulch decks were built around, other than mulch, of course. And it's the card that I will almost certainly continue to build bad decks around for the rest of time. But I do believe that somebody will be able to build, after playing with it, I believe somebody will be able to build a deck with this card that is good. And so the card I've selected for my 3-point shot is Cultivator Colossus.
Oh,
this is 4 green. For a plant beast, it's star. Trample. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control, and when it enters the battlefield, you put a land from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. If you do, draw a card and repeat that process. So whenever my decks did work, it was like an absolute, forgive the pun, landslide victory. Because you would just like reanimate this on turn 5 and draw 12 cards off it while putting lands into, like, your hand is now full of 7 spells and you have 13 or 14 lands on the battlefield, and this thing is gigantic. So even if they killed this, because the big problem about Reanimators, like, I bring back Gristlebrand, go, and then they're like, I kill Gristlebrand, and then you didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Whereas this would be like, I untap with 7 spells in hand and 14 lands on the battlefield, so I can probably still beat you even if you kill it.
Yeah.
So this card is just, there obviously is the floor where like you play all your lands and then you cast this and you don't have any lands in your hand, and it's just like a big 7/7. But I think the upside, if you build around it, especially with Ren and 7 being in the metagame, because it's so sweet to plus Ren, put 4 lands into your hand, and then drop this.
Oh, gosh. And obviously in mulch. Okay. I see it.
Yeah, so this card's been a lot of fun, and I love it. And I think it actually, like, when all the things came together, I would annihilate people. It's just that my build of the deck didn't have the right split of, like, removal. I wasn't playing any, like, Asika's Chariot. Probably you just ditch the whole, like, Reanimator plan and play a much more, like, Asika's Chariot into Ren and 7 kind of thing. It's probably, like, it really should be a Ren and 7 deck, and then you add these other cards around it. But yeah, I was building it with the new cards in mind. But I think eventually, if mid-range decks are a thing at all, then the green mid-range deck that goes over the top of them will probably have this at the top end.
Interesting. I love that you picked this for a 3-pointer, because I was initially going to talk about this, how I thought it was an overrated card. And then I had changed my mind because I read it again and was like, you know what? I don't think that's the one I want to talk about for that. But it was on my list of overrated cards, so it's hilarious. I didn't
realize anyone else rated it highly. I thought I was the only one.
It was because I was thinking back, and it was much more of like a commander player thing where people had thought that it goes infinite with some things that it doesn't go infinite with, that aren't on Arena, so it doesn't even matter for us. Which is why I was feeling that way, and then I was remembering like, oh yeah, actually, as far as like Arena goes, no one was really talking about this in Standard, so it does seem like a sweet play, and I think you're right. Just slamming it and getting every land that's on the top of your library essentially onto the battlefield seems really awesome, and drawing a shit ton of cards.
It's also amazing if you already have Lotus Cobra in play when you play this, because then you like redraw and generate like 5 or 6 mana. So
That sounds sick. That's so sick.
that's the dream.
That's the dream. That's a good dream. It's a good dream to have. I like that quite a bit. All right, Jeff. Half court shots. You ready for these crazy wild ones?
Yeah, and it's funny because you were talking about it maybe being overrated, because I was thinking about maybe having this as my half court shot. So, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give it the respect it deserves. I'm gonna push it up to the 3-pointer.
Yeah, not that I don't think it's like I didn't think it was good. I just thought it was like people thought it was like the most broken thing ever, and I was like, I don't think it's that. But anyway, it doesn't matter because that was also a different format. My half court shot. I didn't talk about it earlier, but I am going to circle back to the brew that I'm making. And this is a card that I think is really important for that deck, and I want this to see play. I think it's the linchpin. It actually is the piece that is really important. So this is Catilda Dawnheart Martyr. So this is after Catilda dies, she turns into this spirit. And now she's like a spirit and then turns into an enchantment, like all the other Disturb cards in the set. So it's 1 white for a star spirit warlock who has flying, lifelink, and protection from vampires, which isn't that important, but who knows? Maybe it will be important. And it says Catilda Dawnheart Martyr's power and toughness are each equal to the number of permanents you control that are spirits and or enchantments. And then it has Disturb for 3 white for an enchantment that does the same thing, and then it exiles and blah, 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 whatever. Basically, this is the card in the Auras deck that I'm trying to build that gives a punch. This is the only thing that's like, you know what? Fuck you. Now you're dead. Like, everything else is just like, hey, I'm a 2/1 flyer for a while. Maybe I draw cards. Hey, maybe I got a +1/+1 from something else, and then you dump this into your yard and you throw it on, and then it's like, oh, never mind. Now you're gonna get hit with, 11 lifelink damage in the air. So, I think the big thing with this is that it gives the thing that's interesting. It's very similar to All That Glitters from Theros, which is a big card in Auras in other in Historic. So this is the other version. It doesn't do artifacts, it just does enchantments, but it also does spirits, which is kind of strange. But the fact that it gives evasion and lifelink with it is helpful. Now, it is a really steep cost to pay 5, and I do think that is a huge downside, and that's what makes this whole deck like 2 turns slower than it should be. Which kind of makes it makes it more of this tempo deck where you're trying to counter the right things before you decide to deploy the win condition. So it gives it a little bit of a different feel. But this is the only card in Standard that can give you any sort of aura punch that's like worth playing. And so that's why I think it is. I don't know if it's gonna get there, but I want it to get there. And that's it. That is my pitch about Catilda.
Yeah, I mean, like, even just the creature part kind of gives you the wrong half, I guess, of Core Spirit Dancer, but it gives you the half of Core Spirit Dancer that, like, really gets buffed by the auras.
Yeah, it does
more than usual.
If they're together on top of the Stormchaser Drake, then you have built your own. It only costs 7 mana.
Right. Yeah, that's... but yeah, it definitely, I was going to say the All That Glitters thing is what's been missing from something like this for a while. And even if this is an expensive way to do it, I mean, if it's the only way to do it, then you don't really have a choice.
Yeah. The interesting thing also with it is that you can play Catilda and also enchant Catilda with Catilda. So you get double, which is not great, but also just it comes up sometimes where you draw another legendary and you're like, well, I need a creature. This is a 3-drop creature that I can play that is a whatever the battlefield is, and then just double whatever it has. So not the best, but it is a fail safe condition. I think this card got a lot better when I started playing Faithful Mending in that deck. Just being able to dump it and have a target to be like, yeah, this can go in the yard. I'm fine with this being in the yard. really pushed out a lot of other cards I was trying. So, yeah. Though it does kind of make you think, oh, maybe I should just be a spirit token deck instead.
Right, yeah.
So there is a little bit of that, but hey, who knows? I just hope, I really hope that it gets there. Anyway, Jeff.
Yeah, you gotta stick true to your aura roots.
You know, like, might as well. But Jeff, what's your half-court shot? What are you're shooting for the moon? What's the card?
All right, so this is actually right next to the one you chose on the card image gallery, so I thought that was interesting. But this is a card I only found out about essentially yesterday. But now I've wanted to see if it could actually do something in Standard. So we're going to be talking about Faith-Bound Judge.
Fuck yeah.
This is 1 white for a 4/4 Spirit Soldier with Defender, Flying, and Vigilance. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if it has 2 or fewer Judgment counters on it, put a Judgment counter on it. And then if it has 3 or more Judgment counters on it, it can attack as though it didn't have Defender. So it's basically like a 4/4 Flying Vigilance that can't attack for 3 turns. Which I admit is a rough start. But it only costs 3 mana, so it's very good on defense.
It's true.
But the back half, it has Disturb. So Disturb is 7 mana, and here's where things get interesting. Okay, so the back half is a curse, and it enchants a player, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you put a Judgment counter on Sinner's Judgment. Then if there are 3 or more Judgment counters on it, enchanted player loses the game. So I love it. I'm a sucker for alternate win cons, no matter how many hoops they make you have to jump through in order to get them to win. And this one seems plausible that you do some sort of... these decks everyone hates, including myself, but I would love to be on the other side of it. That's like a mono-white prison deck, and its win con is literally to just slap this on you and then lock you out of doing anything. That's what I want to be a thing. So,
mono-white prison. I love that. I love this card. I crafted this card to try to play it in my Auras deck just as a sideboard card, specifically against extra turns decks, because if you put the Aura on them and they take too many extra turns, they die. Which I thought would be the funniest thing.
The ultimate irony.
Yeah, like, fuck you. You copied that spell too many times. You're dead. I knew that it would never happen. But
wait a minute. Wait, when does it trigger? Does it trigger on like my upkeep or on their upkeep?
At the beginning of your... Oh, is it my upkeep? Oh, no wonder that wouldn't have worked. Oh, I think you're right. The beginning of your...
Oh, that's a bummer. I thought it was like your upkeep because the aura's
yeah, it's
on
enchanting
me,
the player, right?
Yeah.
But it says...
Like we own it, so it's our
enchanted player loses the game. And it doesn't say, oh, I just had a realization that's so sad. Oh, that would have been so cool.
But anyways, the new game plan is blue-white, and we play this with Alrund's Epiphany. And so we take all the turns.
We take all the turns. Oh, okay. And then just like sacrifice the birds to something, or I guess they just sit there. But
yeah, just don't even attack them, even though you could just kill them with the birds. You want to kill them with the Sinner's Judgments.
Exactly. All right, I'm down for that plan. Let's do that, and we can play Faithful Mending to throw it in the yard to play it faster. Perfect. I love it. Oh, those feel so good. All right, I love our Worthless Lot segment. It's so fun.
Yeah.
But let's talk about some overrated cards. Something that people were like freaking out about at the beginning of spoiler season, and you think are going to be very not the sauce. I don't know. Is that a saying? Is that a thing? I don't know.
Sure. Let's say it is.
Yeah. This one's kind of old. I don't know if it really counts anymore as being overrated, but at the time, it was 100% overrated, and it felt like it blew up, and everyone was like, oh my god, blah, 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 this is going to be the new life. Oh, life is going to be this now. I just want to talk about Alchemist Gambit real quick. Does everyone remember this? It's 1 red for a sorcery with cleave, and it says take an extra turn after this one. During that turn, damage can't be prevented, and then in brackets, at the beginning of that turn's end step, you lose the game, and then you exile Alchemist's Gambit. The cleave cost is 4 blue, blue, red. So it's an is it card that gives you an extra turn, but it does the normal, like, kind of Boros-y red card thing where you... Sorry, I'm pouring more wine. That's why, because why not? It's so easy to just drink wine. You don't have to...
Why not?
Yeah, wine and not. Take a crazy chance. Wine, not do a silly dance. Anyway, that's like a Lizzie McGuire song. I don't know why I'm talking right now. Anyway, Alchemist Gambit. This is just a card that people were freaking out about, saying it's like more Alrund's Epiphany. It's like, oh my god, I can't believe that extra turns gets more extra turns in this set. Blah 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 blah. This card's trash. Like, no one's playing this card. Like, are you kidding? No, I like maybe if you need, like, this is just a worse extra turn card that costs the same, and maybe there's a corner case where you might play it for the 3 mana, but like, no, this card's not good. Like,
yeah, I don't like calling it another Alrund's Epiphany because it's just completely different than Alrund's Epiphany.
Yeah.
It's definitely worse for sure. But I think this incentivizes you to be really aggressive, right?
Yeah.
This wants to go in, like, maybe you would play this in the Dragons version where you can just, like, gold span and then play this in the same turn and they're dead somehow.
Yeah, or you play this because then you at least get a 3/3 flyer with your mana flare dragon. Mana form,
yeah, something like that, right? Like, that deck maybe wants this. I still think you would probably just play Alrund's Epiphany. I think part of the thing that, some of the hype behind this was everyone was operating under the assumption that Epiphany was going to get banned. And so this would be like the replacement extra turn spell. But I think if the Izzet decks are playing this instead of Alrund's Epiphany, then they're going to be terrible. So yeah, I wasn't high on this card. I do think it could see some amount of play in this really aggressive Dragons deck as like a I kill you 1 turn faster card.
Yeah.
But I even think that's a bit of a long shot. Like, they'll mostly probably do that and it's kind of cute. But usually they would have won those games anyways without this card. Like,
yeah, this card is like a half-court shot. That's really what it is. Like, I don't see it being...
But people were treating it like a layup, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, I mean, not to say that people also, were saying, hey, this card actually sucks at the same time, which is always how overrated cards happen. But
sure,
the discourse was insane. I don't know. It just seemed like there's almost no way that this card does anything. So I'm really happy that Alrund's Epiphany is almost falling out of favor and we have something else to be mad at, which is great. That's kind of how the churn works, right? Like, everyone's calling for bans, and then this card comes in, and then it doesn't even matter that the other card isn't banned because no one's really playing it anymore, or like they kind of are, or whatever. Like, that's magic. So
I'm curious if anything happened to this card. Like, it's about to go to the file and people are complaining about Alrund's Epiphany and they're like, you know what, just make the cleave cost cast like an extra blue and a 1 or some shit.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean, like, maybe they just added red to the cleave cost, because it would have been really interesting if it was just a blue cleave cost. I guess none of the other ones are like that, right. So they probably didn't do that, but I wonder if we see that in the future. Anyway, that card's dumb.
Flash forward 1 month from now. I can't believe they printed Alchemist Gambit. Yeah. It's so obviously broken.
Yeah, it's gonna win like the fucking.
I knew right away that it was the best.
Well, no, we never do that here. We're very honest with our mistakes. No. All right, what's your overrated card?
All right, so the card that I think is overrated, it's just a dorky creature, and like everyone was talking about it like it's gonna, flip the entire metagame on its head. So I don't know. My card is Thalia, Guardian of Thrabit. No, just kidding. That's the wrong one. Hold on. That one's properly rated as amazing. No, it's Bloodvial Purveyor. As much as it pains me to say it, I want a card like this to be good, but cards like this just aren't good anymore. And everyone's like, oh, look at how huge this is. It's amazing. It attacks for like 6 or 7 or whatever. And I'm like, that's great, but I don't think it's ever going to attack because they're going to kill it for like 1 mana or 2 mana or something, So I get that it survives a lot of the red removal, which is what a lot of people are playing right now, but it still just gets hit by the 1 mana bounce spell. It still gets divided by 0. It still gets hit by every black spell they have, basically.
It will deal 2 damage
And
to them because they have to play the you lose 2 life to kill the thing.
And not only does it not do anything on its way in, it actually gives them a blood token when they kill it. So it's like, it's actually the opposite of an ETB. And these days you have to play creatures that do something on the way in because they're just going to get dealt with on end step. So you need to have gained some amount of value from them.
Yeah.
Even if we gained a blood token, that would make me so much happier about this card. If it was like, when it enters the battlefield, you get a blood token. But yeah, just as it is, it's just a big dummy. And big dummies aren't good enough unless your whole game plan revolves around them, like mono green. And I don't see a deck where this would fit into, I guess.
Yeah. I don't think I feel as intense about this as you. I would probably still try this out because I love a clean block against a Goldspan Dragon. But the fact that it is errated, so this is important for everyone that knows this card. Do we read this card, by the way? Did you read it? Do you want to read it?
All right, so it's Blood Vial Purveyor, 2 black. It's a 5/6 vampire with flying and trample. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, that player creates a blood token. Whenever Blood Vial Purveyor attacks, it gets +1/+0 for each blood token defending player controls.
Yeah, and the Oracle text says until end of turn.
Right.
So a lot of people were super freaking out because they were thinking, oh shit, this card is like the new arena card. People are going to start making it so you have to only play arena and like that's what this card does, and you can't keep track of its power and blah 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 blah. But
yeah, I forgot about that nonsense. No cards are ever templated like this, so it's just obviously an error.
Exactly. So it's one of those things that, like, I saw a lot of discourse about that and people being like, holy shit, this card's fucking crazy because it's just going to get huge. But no, that's not true. It won't get huge, and it will be, like you said, kind of just like if it gets to stick on the battlefield, it'll be annoying. And it could kill you, but like you're right, it will soak up removal very well, and kind of do nothing. You get to pay 4 mana for nothing.
It just feels so bad that it's just going to get nailed by Fading Hope.
Yeah,
and that's rough.
So like
get them a blood token for their trouble.
Exactly. While instead for 4 mana you could instead play Anya, and then you get your own blood token. So there you go.
And that's what I mean. It has to do at least something on the way in. I feel like in today's game. Or if there was some sort of crazy fast black aggro deck, maybe. But even then, I would hope to have a top-end card that does something immediately.
Yeah, for sure. So, no, I think I'm on the same track as you, that this one's definitely was crazy overhyped. Like,
and I still see people playing it, like, now on stream. They have decks built around that and stuff. And I'm like, it's just not what today's game is about, unfortunately, because I would love for that card to be good.
But it's not. Sorry.
But I just don't see it.
I also don't see it. Now we're moving into some underrated cards. Things that we think, they're not getting the props that they deserve. And while I do want to keep talking about my Auras deck because it's the only thing I really know what's going on at all, those are my main cards. So the card that I think that is super underrated is Stormchaser Drake. It's all right. So I know I talk about mono white all the time, but the card that I think is underrated is, and I'm wondering if it can fit in there. There's a lot of stuff going on in that deck, but anytime you can smack in a card that is not 3 mana. Amazing. I love to add cards that are not 3 mana into mono white. And there are some things going on. I'm just going to say what the card is because I'm just going to keep talking about how I think it's going to impact it. But Cemetery Protector, which is 2 white for a 3/4 human soldier with flash, which is super important. But when it enters the battlefield, you get to exile a card from a graveyard. And then whenever you play a land or cast a spell that shares a card type with the exiled card, you create a 1/1 white human creature token. So I kind of like the situation that mono white is kind of getting into, where there are these like flash cards. I think there's 3 of them right now. You can play this, or you can play Guardian of Faith, or you can play the war god from Kaldheim that like exiles one of their attacking or blocking creatures.
It's like Sigrid.
Sigrid, yeah. I was gonna say Sigarda, but that's not right. So Sigrid, yeah.
I know. I kept thinking that too, and I'm like, nope, that's not it.
That's not
That's
it.
the angel.
It's not that. But Cemetery Protector is this interesting thing where I do think it is probably correct to always try to take a land whenever you do this, so that you never have draws where you don't get anything. Like, mono white likes to have lots of little creatures, and there are some really good pump effects or anthem effects that are in standard right now. So having a way to have this weird late game, either you hold up your protection spell or you hold up this, play this at their end step, untap, you get to attack with it, or whenever you're just like at the end of the game and you're only drawing lands, at least every time you play a land, you get a 1/1 that is probably could become a 2/2 later or do some different things. So I think it might do some more work than we're giving it credit. Now, in its cycle, it's probably on the lower. No, that's not true. I think it's probably one of the better ones. I'm not super high on a lot of the cemetery cycle.
Actually, most of the other cemetery cards were in consideration for overrated slot for me.
Yeah.
Because I think people think they're amazing, and I think they're pretty good.
Yeah,
But, like,
I think
not good enough to crack the format.
exactly. Because I think I've played with this one and I really did like having it. Because of that exact scenario where like you never have the stupid situation. If it's on the battlefield, you don't have the draw step that does nothing. Like if you draw land, you always get a 1/1 out of it, which can be really big at that stage of the game. Most of the time, you're trying to just get in a few more points of damage, and not having just blank draws is huge.
Yeah, I mean, one thing is it's not trivial for there to be a land in the graveyard in this format, because there's no fabled passages and people aren't doing a lot of self-milling. But it's also like worth noting that sometimes you'll just flash this in, it's a 3/4, and you'll hit their Memory Deluge out of their graveyard, and then they don't get to cast the Memory Deluge the second time, and maybe they have no cards in hand, and they were relying on that to refuel, kind of thing. So, like, the exiling a card is just incidentally going to be good a lot of the time, and then, like you're saying, if it's not good for any particular reason, you just pick a land, or I guess if you had like 5 creatures in your hand, maybe you could pick a creature and just like absolutely go to town. But
Yeah.
I'm imagining normally as the mono white deck, when you cast this card, you're kind of out of gas.
Exactly.
And so you're just kind of trying to guarantee that whatever you draw for the rest of the game does something, like you were saying.
Yeah, you're right that it's not just trivial that lands will be in the graveyard, because in mono white you're not going to be playing your you're not going to play Evolving Wilds. Like, that card's just like death to you.
Like, I guess they have to kill your Fabled Passage.
Yes,
probably.
that's what I was going to say, is that you can be a little bit more reckless with your Fabled Passage, because if it's in the graveyard, then you know that you have some value from it. Which I don't know if that's a great play. Because I think Fabled Passage is just so strong against board wipes.
Sorry, Faceless Haven. Is
What did I say?
Not Fabled Passage.
Oh.
We were both saying Fabled Passage, but both thinking of Faceless Haven.
Yeah, we're talking about Faceless Haven. So, yes, Faceless Haven is fantastic, and I don't know if it's great purposely trying to get it in the yard just to do this, but in any case, I think that it's going to be underrated as far as the cemetery cycle goes, and I think it's probably second or third, I would say, of those. So
yeah, I like the idea of this card in my this idea in my mind I have of the blue-white tempo deck, where you Paolo their card and then counter it with the 1 mana counter. This also was part of my picture of that too, just as like a beefy flash threat in a tempo deck is always nice.
Really, because I also think this could be fun in your Reanimator deck if you could fit white in there, double white, so that when you play all the lands, you just make a fuck ton of 1/1s. And that's
Or maybe in my mono white prison deck.
yeah, there you go. Okay, with the Faithbound Judge, it could probably work out. But anyway, Jeff, do you have a underrated card that you'd like to share with us?
All right, so for my choice for underrated card, I chose an interesting one because it's kind of surprising to me that it's underrated, but I haven't seen anyone talking about it, so I'm just going to throw it out there. And this is Hamlet Vanguard. So this is 2 and a green for a human warrior, 1/1. It has Ward 2, but it enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it for each other non-token human you control. I don't know, this just seems like Lovestruck Beast with Ward 2 to me in the right deck. If you build green-white humans and you curve out, then this is just a 5/5 Ward 2 for 3. Isn't that just ridiculous?
Oh, I didn't think about that.
And even if it's like a 3/3 Ward 2 for 3, that's not the worst.
No,
It seems fine, but
yeah. I mean, turn 1, play some dork. Turn 2, play Thalia. Turn 3, play this. Yuck.
that's the thing. There are a lot of good humans in green and white too, especially in this set and just in the format in general. A lot of the cards you want to play already are humans.
Yeah.
The only thing the big problem with green-white humans is that the 1-drop Spirit is not a human, and it's the best white 1-drop. But there's some good 1-drop humans in this set.
Yeah.
So
The Hopeful Initiate, I also thought was pretty good, especially with the +1/+1 counter
Totally.
thing. So I would be happy to see that, as well as like the Anthem, the Adversary, the white Adversary. That's a human. You get to play Paolo. I think there's some good stuff.
yeah. And then there's like the green-white legend in this set too that has training and makes 1/1 humans with training.
All right. Okay.
I feel like if you had a mostly white deck splash green, and this is kind of your payoff, one of your payoffs for being in the humans tribe is that you just get like a 3-mana 5/5 Ward 2. Seems kind of crazy. And it can go beyond that, right? Like if you play it on turn 4, it could be a 7/7.
Yeah. Yeah, the double +1/+1 counters is crazy. Yeah. I think I like that. I'm not a big like +1/+1 counters fan. Actually, +1/+1 counters and humans tend to be my least favorite things because, well, number one, why are you playing a fantasy game if you're playing humans? And two,
To win, Zach, to win.
but to play like human tribal, like human cards are fine, but like human tribal always makes me laugh because it's like you could be playing dragons, like you could be playing zombies, vampires, werewolf. There's so many things that you could play, but you decided to be just your neighborhood guy, you know. This is the lawnmower savior, you know, and he just drinks his Bud Light and he likes his football team.
Oh, that sounds great. Where do I get my hands on this guy?
Actually, no, that sounds kind of fun. Like if we had like a fantasy football card game, except for each player that's the card is a person that plays fantasy football. So it's just a bunch of like dads and like married guys. I like that.
I would play that game for sure.
I'd play that. They probably wouldn't have human tribal in that game because everyone would be a human, unless it like branched out. But anyway,
Have like event cards, like you drank too many beers and made a horrible trade. Lose 3.
you lose your best player. You know, you have to switch your best player with their like most medium player.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Should we start a game company? Should we build this game? I think it would be hilarious.
Yeah, I think we have to now.
All right, maybe we'll make that a goal for like a Patreon or something. Like, hey, if we get this,
I'm sure the NFL have no problem giving us rights and stuff.
oh well, we won't really talk about the NFL. We'll just say like it's, you know, we can fudge that, right? We'll use the same colors, but it won't be the same symbols. But you know,
Smart.
like it'll be the Buffalo Bills, but the bill is actually like a phone bill or something. Oh gosh. Anyway, did we finish our worthless slot segment? These wines are fucking me up, man.
We sure did.
All right, let's go to last call because I need to get cut off, man. I never had to get cut off before, but I think it's time on the show.
All right, let's cut you off.
All right, Jeff, you ready? Like, wait, how did I do that? Yeah, kind of like that. We don't have any corks. Corks are the real sound of wine, but you know, people have decided that corks are, what is it? Not trendy. I don't think that's it. I think it's more like corks are, like Jeff. Have you ever had this happen to you where you're at a party and there's a glass of wine, or sorry, there's a bottle of wine, you can't open it because no one has a corkscrew?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. That happens often, right? At least at college parties and stuff. So now, instead, they just give you screw caps, which take the elegance out of the wine, I will say, but it does make it more convenient. So, and technically, the seal is better after you've opened it if it's a twist top. So,
I was going to say that. I always assumed it was for resealing, and I was like, well, what's the point of that? Because who's doing that?
Exactly, yeah. Most of the time, like, I put the cork on the top so that nothing gets in it while I drink it that night.
Right.
But I'm going to drink the whole bottle in one sitting.
And the other thing is, part of the fun of those parties is trying to come up with creative ways to remove that cork. So.
That's true. So have you tried the one where you stick it in the shoe and then you bang the shoe against the wall? Yeah?
Of course, yeah.
That's like... Yeah. Of corks.
That's like the college. That's like the shifty college kid wine opening.
Yeah,
you know,
well,
101.
Because now you see the TikTok stuff where it's like, oh, all you have to do is drill a screw into the top and then take a hammer and pull it out. You know,
I don't think you understand the situation that I was in.
Like, we didn't have either of those tools. So, like, I didn't have a screw. Like, you would have to.
I was in a college dorm. Why would I have a power drill? Like,
so there are some that are like, oh, you do a blowtorch on it and then you crack the top off or something with like metal or whatever. I'm like, I don't have it. Maybe I have a candle. Like, I don't know. Like, the shoe thing was close. So have you ever been able to open a bottle with a shoe?
I haven't, but
Okay.
I've heard legend of it.
So I've also heard legend of it, but I've never seen it happen myself. So I still think it's an urban legend.
Well, does that depend? If the whole neck cracks off, does that consider opening it?
If you purposely meant to break the neck so that you could pour it, yes, that's fine. If you were trying to bang it against something and it happened to break open because the neck broke off and there's shards of glass everywhere, I'd feel less inclined to say that you actually
Then
did
no,
it.
I've never succeeded.
All right, there you go. Yeah, the one thing with wine is you can't saber the top of it off. It has to be a champagne or a sparkling wine, which there's bubbles. Anyway, I know that our listeners really care about.
That'll be our even fancier episode when we get the champagne bottles and we saber them open.
Yeah, well, I do know how to do that, so I can teach you how to do it, and then we'll double saber at the beginning of an episode at some point. If we ever reach, I don't know, 10,000 listens or something, we'll saber double saber bottles together. But anyway, Jeff, it's the time to start rating the drinks that we've had, because I think we should rate them. And we do a rating system for beers on a scale of bronze to mythic, and I think we should have a similar rating system for wine.
Yeah, why not?
Wine not. You're right. So this has nothing to do with how you are doing in Arena and what tier you are in. However, bronze wines are literally vinegar. Like, they're trash. They're like, you can't drink them because they've gone bad. Like, this is the reason a bronze wine is the reason that they pour it into your glass at a restaurant before you taste it, just to be like, yes, it is actually wine, you know?
Yeah. One day I just want to send it back, even if I liked it, just to have sent it back.
Yeah,
after
just
they
to
poured it.
And you know what? All they're doing in the back is they're all tasting it, being like, "This is totally fine." Like, he shouldn't have sent it back. But anyway, what are silver wines?
So silver wines they basically meet the definition of their style. They are what they are, and they have essentially nothing interesting going on beyond that.
Yeah, they have alcohol, and that's nice.
Yeah.
Gold wines are, that was fine. I liked some of the stuff that was going on with the bottle. I won't really want to drink it again, probably. It is what it is, and yeah, it might end up being opened at some point in my life, but I won't do it really on purpose.
Yeah, platinum is, sort of the inverse. It was solid, and you would seek it out to drink again. Not mind-blowing.
Yeah. Diamond is, this is one of our go-tos. Like, I love this wine. It's definitely, it's not the best wine I've ever had, but it's one that I'll, like, pick up and be like, remember this one? This is the one that we had with your parents, and, like, we had the spaghetti or whatever. Like, that's the wine that you're like, I will keep bringing this up all the time, and you drink it often.
Yeah, and then Mythic is the top tier. This is the best wine. This is among the best wines that you've had that's available, and you recommend it to anyone who will listen. You'll give them a 20-minute lecture of why it's the best wine they can buy.
This is the one that you drink at your graduation, and the one that you wish you could afford all the time, but you can't. Or if you could, it wouldn't be special anymore. So that's why you make sure that it's like special. With that being said, Jeff, I am interested to hear about your wine and also just your experience. First of all, before we get into your actual wine, is there a wine that is mythic to you?
No. I mean, I'm sure I've had wine that I thought was really excellent, but I can't remember the name of a particular type of
bottle
wine
or something.
situation.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to, just for everyone, I used to work at a wine pub. We were very chill, to be fair. It was called a wine pub because we had kegs of wine. I didn't have bottles that I was giving people.
I like that. That would make it feel more approachable
Yeah.
to people like me, where most of my wine came out of a box.
Exactly. So you would, yeah, exactly. You would have loved this spot. We didn't have any stemware. Both of us have our fancy stems tonight just to feel fancy because of the wedding. But we would drink wine out of recycled wine bottles that had turned into glasses. It was very hey, wine can be for every person, everyone, it doesn't matter. Let's teach people about wine, which is what I think wine should be, because I like it as a drink, and I think that there's a lot of stupid stigma around it that is not necessary, and there's a lot of upturned noses about stuff, which shouldn't
For sure, yeah.
be. So I don't like that very much. So, but I love to hear everyone's idea about their different things. So, Jeff, how do you feel about the bottle that you're drinking? What was it called again? The
Diabolica.
Diabolica.
It was fine. It's a bit sweet when I immediately drank it. I'm trying to see if they were going to give me any tasting notes that I was supposed to hit, but they didn't really tell me anything about it. But it's as soon as you take a sip, it almost tasted like berry juice of some sort.
Okay.
It's very sweet and bright and tasted really fruity. Which at first I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this whole thing, because normally I wouldn't drink, a liter of berry juice, but it started to grow on me after a while. I think that initial shock of the sweetness to the palate kind of toned down after a bit, and then it started to mellow out a bit. That being said, while I did overall probably enjoy the bottle, I don't think I'd ever get it again. So I guess for me that makes it gold.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. So this is interesting. We've never done an episode where we didn't both taste the thing. So I really have no opinion about your bottle, which is funny. But yeah, that makes sense for what it was. Obviously, we were getting them because they had names that we liked, which is a perfectly good reason to buy something. And it's also important to remember the other parts of it, because then you just don't want to buy that forever just because you liked the name, but then you didn't actually like the wine. Gold for yours. I feel pretty similarly with my bottle that was a low-end Shiraz. So for me, little wine trivia for you. The varietal Shiraz is also the same as Syrah. So if you're drinking Shiraz or Syrah, it's the same grape. It just depends on what country you're getting the grapes from, and that will change the name of it, quote unquote. But it's literally the same thing. Like, it doesn't matter. And traditionally, Shiraz is from Australia, and Syrah will. It's a grape that likes to grow in like really hot places. And what happens is that when the grapes get really hot during the day, then they start to develop, and that will make a lot of basically sugar. And then at night they'll start to go down, and they'll have really thick skins. So when you have a lot of sugar in your wine, and then the skins are really thick, the skin is what gives the tannins, which is the really dark color and the like kind of tannin-y flavor. And if there's a lot of sugar when you start to use it, and there's a lot of juice, that will become alcohol and make it really big-bodied, and like it's gonna punch you.
Sure.
So
punch.
Yeah, exactly. So most of the time, I really like Syrahs, and they always grow in these really hot climates. So it's a varietal that I always look for. And if you want a wine that punches you in the face, Syrah or a Petite Syrah is usually what I suggest to people, and they tend to grow in like Argentina and like South Africa and Australia and like certain parts of like Italy and France. With that being said, this one is underwhelming. It's fine. I'm in gold probably with you. It's okay.
Yeah, it's not like I didn't enjoy it. But,
yeah, it's wine. I always like drinking wine. I also like drinking beer. I like drinking lots of things. There's a lot of things that I like about the world, and this bottle is fine.
Right.
So
it's interesting about Syrahs, though. I might keep an eye out for them next time.
I think it's
like a type that I would look for.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of interesting stories about different varietals, but after working at this wine pub that I think that you would have enjoyed, I realized that big-bodied wines is what I wanted, and Syrahs were usually the ones that turned my mouth purple fastest, and they are high in alcohol and really like punchy. And in Canada, there are some really wonderful Pinot Noirs and really delicate flavors. While I need a really hot climate.
Yeah.
To give you something really gnarly like this.
Because like that's how I like my stouts too. I like the ones that punch you in the mouth way better than the ones that are like delicate notes of chocolate and cocoa. Like, it's not like I don't like those ones, but I really love the ones where the first sip is like you got punched in the mouth.
Exactly. So those are usually the ones where like you're like, oh, I like all the moisture in my mouth is gone, and something else is going on. That's usually what I'm looking for. And this bottle didn't really do it for me, but I will continue to look in the similar regions of McLaren Vale, Australia. So, but that is what we think about these wines. Our first rating of wines. How fun! Because
hopefully not our last.
I mean, maybe it might be our last.
When they return to Innistrad next, we'll do.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Or maybe there will be a reason we'll do it for another set where it makes sense to drink wine, because whenever they bring blood tokens back, there we go. If blood tokens come back, we have to drink wine. But
okay,
yeah, that sounds good to me. All right, but Jeff, I'm sad to say, I think it's closing time.
Closing time? Man, I thought this wine bar never closed.
It does. It closes at an appropriate hour so that people can get home safely. But if you ever want to talk to us about wines that you like, all the things that you want to say, hey, Zach, you don't know actually anything about wine, and everything you just said is bullshit and not real. You can find me. Actually, you can find us at Arena Regulars on Twitter and Instagram. But you can also find me personally at Zulberg on Twitter and Instagram as well. That's ZEULBERG. But Jeff, if we're on Arena, can you find us? Do we play on Arena?
I don't know if that's how Arena works, that you can actually like find somebody, but you might run into us, I guess. Our username is Arena Regulars Podcast. Yeah.
Also, Jeff, if people want to talk to you personally and give you some lessons on wine or give you some recommendations, where can they find you?
Oh yeah, feel free to tell me I know nothing about wine or magic. That's fine too. I just want to hear it. Always happy to learn. You can find me at Blues Brews MTG on Twitter, BLUESBREWSMTG.
Also, please leave us a review. If you liked this episode or anything that we have ever done, we would love to hear your feedback. It means a lot to us, and we would just like to connect with anyone. So go on Apple Podcasts, go on iTunes, follow us on Spotify and Stitcher, go to our Anchor account, find us on YouTube, leave us a comment or literally anything. We'd love to connect with you. This has been the Arena Regulars.
Reminding you that if you hate wine, we are still a beer podcast, so you could check back in next week.
Good night. All right, that's fine.